everybody, today we're going to be working on the transmission again, and we're going to be doing the upgraded clutch fork for the 30A. And for those of you that don't know, this clutch fork up top is the stock one, and it's just a stamped piece of steel. Nothing's really wrong with that, but once you start making more power and when you have an upgraded clutch, they tend to flex a little bit, and that can interfere with your shifts, and it's just not good overall. So what a lot of people do is they swap out to one of these. This is the cast iron clutch fork out of a later model 350Z, and to go with that I have the upgraded chromoly pivot ball as well, and this one's just a little bit stronger than the stock one. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to get this installed into the transmission. I also do have a new throw bearing. I already have it pressed on to the sleeve. But I'm going to get the camera set up in front of the bell housing and we can get started. Alright, so first up we have to remove the stock pivot ball. It's just down here, and once we get that removed, before we can get the chromoly one installed, I'm going to clean it up with some brake clean, and then we're going to put some thread lock on, thread it in, and torque it down to 29 foot-pounds. Now with the pivot ball in, we can focus on the throw bearing sleeve and the two little springs that come included with it. So this is our main spring here. It is different than the original one, and we're just going to be clipping it on to the little groove, and it goes just like this. There we go. And for the smaller spring, it just presses inside of this little cup here. It is a little difficult to get it in. You just got to get some needle nose pliers and kind of force it in. But I already have it installed, and I have the point of the spring facing towards the fork. Now, before we can attach the throw bearing to the clutch fork, we're going to have to put a little bit of grease on some of the contact points. So I'm going to be using a high pressure grease, and the contact points are going to be right where the throw bearing sleeve is going to be resting on the fork, and that's on these two machine surfaces, and probably as well I'm going to put some on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So now that we have grease on all the contact points on the fork, we can go ahead and install the throw bearing sleeve. So how you're going to do this is you're going to aim the 2 points of the spring up. You're going to hold the clutch fork with the smaller retaining spring towards the back of the transmission, and then this is just going to aim straight up, clip those 2 springs into the little slots, and bend it over and around, just like that. And when you have it done, it should be able to pivot freely on the contact surface, and it shouldn't feel like it's binding up on anything. And before we put the moly grease away, we're also going to put a bunch on the pivot ball itself, as well as inside the little pivot ball groove on the clutch fork. So we're almost ready to get the clutch fork installed into the transmission, but before we do that, we still have to grease up a few more areas. And the 2 areas we have left are going to be this little shaft here that the bearing sleeve slides on, as well as inside the bearing sleeve itself. So I'm not sure if you guys can tell, but you can see a little ridge in there, and that's actually a grease trap. So we're going to get lots of grease, and we're going to fill that little trap up, and then we're going to also put some on here, and then we'll be ready to slide the entire clutch fork assembly onto the transmission. I'm going to be using just regular chassis grease for this application. So now with everything greased up on the inside here as well as on the shaft there, we're pretty much ready to put the clutch fork into the transmission. There is one last thing we got to do, and that's just this little rubber dust cup here that goes near the slave cylinder. I'm going to quickly put some silicone paste in this little groove here to repel water, and then we'll be set to slide the clutch fork in. Alright, so we're ready to slide the clutch fork on. So we're going to aim the back end of the clutch fork into the little rubber grommet there. You can bend the bearing sleeve over, should find its track, and then push it on a little bit. There we go, and then you're going to want to put some pressure right here to clip the pivot ball into the spring. There we go. You should hear it make a little click sound. And you just want to make sure everything slides nice and smoothly. And if you have any extra grease that's running off, like here, we're going to go ahead and just wipe that and get that out of the way. So I just spread out some of the extra grease onto the splines for the clutch because we're going to eventually need to put some grease there anyways. A little tip for you guys, try not to get any grease on the end here where the pilot bushing goes. If you do, just wipe it off with some brake clean. You're going to want to put engine oil there instead. But other than that, the install is pretty much done and everything moves nice and smoothly. There's no weird noises and it's a pretty straightforward job. I'm going to get the transmission installed into the car in one of the later videos, so keep an eye open for that. And I will run you guys through a little bit more on how to get the clutch and pilot bushing in as well. So until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.